I'm Stephanie Chaikin. I'm the director of the Center for the Arts at NJCU, and I'd like to welcome you to a presentation this afternoon of findings from a survey that we did on audience preferences and in Jersey City. I'm going to start us off by having our executive director, Jeffrey Rosenstock, of our Guarini Performing Arts Center, kind of give some background, and then we will go forward from there. So handing it to you, Jeff.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Jeff Rosenstock. I'm working as a consultant for Dr. Henderson at NJCU on the Performing Arts Center. And one of the things we realized was that a feasibility study was never completed. And we felt there was really critical information we needed to know in terms of opening that Performing Arts Center, and in turn also felt that we could share with the community at large, our sister colleague cultural organizations. What I did was really look for an appropriate person or a consultant to help us do a really thorough study. An organization had the expertise to do this, and then I asked NJCU's president, Sue Henderson, to fund that study. So we picked audience research and analysis. You'll be hearing from George and Arlene shortly. They did a survey. We want to thank all of the participating organizations who lent us their database on a one-time basis to help us get more information. And then I look forward to sharing with George and Arlene the results of that survey. Thanks.
We have some words from Dan Wempa.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm working with Jeff on the sort of planning and preparations for the Performing Arts Center. I've been in nonprofit arts management in a variety of different capacities over the past 20 years or so. I worked for a number of years at the New York Hall of Science in Queens, New York City, as the head of operations, marketing, and many other sundry things. And for the past several years, I've been working as a consultant in that same space, working with organizations, usually small organizations, usually performing arts or cultural organizations, on strategy, operations, business development, just sort of all around keeping the business of the organization on track. And it was great to work with George and all of you on this project. And I'm interested to hear these results as much as you are.
Thanks so much, Dan. Okay, so George and Eileen, we'll turn the meeting to you.
Hello, everyone. John, if you want to put the deck up, we can work from those slides. They're more interesting than looking at me.
For us.
There we go. Okay, so we can advance to the next slide, John. This survey started out in the fall. We used the same questionnaire in different fashions. We did surveys at the Bergen Fair Day, at the Art Fair, 14C. These were done on iPads as personal intercepts. We then invited the people who are on this Zoom and others to share their lists, and we deduped the lists into one unique list, because otherwise we had over 2,300 people who were on multiple lists, and they would have gotten multiple invitations, and had they answered, it would bias the survey, or they'd just be annoyed and call you up and say, why did I get 3 surveys? So that we had a marketing company dedupe the list into one, and everybody received the same questionnaire. Now, they also had the option, and some other people who might just have known or heard about the survey or read about the survey, to look at the microsite we set up. If you want to show that, John, the Jersey City Arts, yeah. So this was another opportunity where people could take it in a generic fashion, other than those who were directly invited. And all the sponsors are listed below, even though they're not necessarily. There we go, showing on the screen. Okay, thank you. So let's go back. Let's see, we did collect over 900 responses, over 100 of which were partial responses. So essentially we had about 800 completes plus some partial information, which is a pretty good sized sample, and allowed us to take slices of the sample for different age groups and so on and so forth. Next. So the geography, we're working here from the lists that were already provided. So this is essentially a study of people who have an interest in the arts to begin with. It isn't a study of the general population to see who else might be interested, which is another step we may take. But if you're starting off, you want to know always who your core audience is. And this is the core audience, 60% of whom live in Jersey City, 4% reside in Hoboken. Overall, you have 80% who live someplace in northern New Jersey. Next. So we asked them what type of live performances they had attended regularly in the past. With the pandemic, we didn't specify a particular time period because it's kind of iffy. And also the results here can be slightly biased by the participating companies and the largest number of responses from the list we got were for Art House, followed by Nimbus, then JCTC and Riverview Jazz. And based on that, their behavior indicated that theater was the art form that they participated in the most, 68%, and live music next at 54%, and so on and so forth. Next. So depending on which category they said they had attended in the past, they saw a question that asked them to drill down on the genre within that category. So in classical music, orchestral performances rated the most at, I can't see that, 67%.
No, 87%.
87%, okay.
Sorry.
And in terms of the type of popular music, indie rock alternative was number one, followed by R&B, soul, and then blues. Those were the top three that people had specified they had attended recently. In terms of dance, modern dance, contemporary ballet were more popular than classical ballet. Next. So we asked them where they generally saw live performances, and an overwhelming number, 84%, attended in Manhattan, while 56%, or 55, I can't see, attended in Jersey City. In terms of the people who attended the people who attended in Manhattan cut across all ages, but the people who attended in Jersey City tended to be younger. For example, those under 35, it was 69%. Those 35 to 54, 60%. And once you got over 55, only 45% were attending events in Jersey City. Whereas generally for those three age groups, it was in the 80% for each age group in Manhattan. So the local is more likely to be young. Next. Then we asked the question, which is probably more predictive than what they did, which is what they would like to see more of in Jersey City. And the first bar is 61%, and that's live music. That's the number one thing they'd like to see more of, and it's virtually tied with theater, drama, and comedies. So the two blue bars at the left, 61%, represent live music and theater as those categories they'd like to see the most. Then we broke down, let me just clarify, the second blue here is theater, comedies, and dramas. We had a third category, the gray, which is theater musicals, 47%. We were somewhat surprised that comedies and dramas, in other words, straight plays, came out more popular than musicals, but that was the result. Then followed the green is talk and lectures at 43%, stand-up comedy at 38%, modern dance at 37%, classical music at 33%, and ballet at 25%. Only 5% said they were not interested in seeing live performances in Jersey City. Next. We asked this question partly because we did survey a lot of people at the art fair. And so we asked about museums and visual attendance in the past. 5 out of 6 had attended or viewed an exhibits in Manhattan. Art museums, art galleries, 83%. Science museums, less popular, 59%. And it's a tough category called museum of specific culture or ethnicity, but there are, American Indian, Jewish heritage, et cetera, would fit in that category, and that'd be 49%. Next. Okay, next. We asked people who they went with. Spouse or partner is the first light blue, and 64%, the darker blue, were friends. 14% represent that the green went with children under 18, and 12% was other relatives. Next. Preferred time of week to attend. Not surprisingly, the most popular time by far was a weekend night, followed by during the day on the weekend, in other words, a matinee. And then weeknights were third at 53%, which is not an insignificant number.
Yeah.
Next. Sources of information, how they usually hear. The first number, 70%, is social media. It came up number one as how this audience hears about live performances they decide to attend. Now, that's very significant given, as we'll see later, that the mean age of this audience is 52. Second is email from the venue, which isn't surprising since the list we consolidated were all email lists that people who participated. Third, the gray area, 52%, is personal recommendation, followed by the organization's website at 44% in green, and the light blue cultural site or e-news at 38%. The red is outdoor signage, which, is a lot bigger in your neighborhood than it would have been in Manhattan. And then regular postal mail, 19%, and 70% radio and TV in yellow. Next. Since the PAC is going to be located outside of downtown, we did ask how people typically travel to performances in Jersey City. And as you can see, car was 34%, but interestingly, walking was 31%. And that's a lot of people who are just walking to the destination, which will be obviously an issue for the PAC.
But George, if you look at it, car and on-demand car service makes up 51%. So 1 in 2 basically using some kind of car transportation.
Good point.
Yeah. So I just wanted to
and 3% bicycle, but that's only 2 wheels. Okay. All right. Next. Okay. Now this is much better. Here you can see that we had a roughly 60-40 split in terms of women, and that's not unusual for performing arts. Jazz usually has a more equal audience. Photography is one of the few art forms we actually might have more males, but that's the gender distribution. Very well educated, 89% with a college degree, 45% overall with a graduate or professional degree. The mean income was $160,000, and you can see the distribution there. It runs the gamut. But it's kind of, if you turn those blue bars on its side, it's kind of a normal distribution, with the most likely household of 100 to 149 being the most popular income category. And again, the age is sort of a normal distribution on the right, tilted a little to the right, with 52 years being the average age. Next. Only 23% of the respondents had children under 18 living in the household. And the distribution of those children was such that almost half, 47%, had children between 12 to 17. So about a quarter had children, but mostly older children. That's the bottom line. In terms of what's on the right, we asked, in terms of the people who had children, if they had participated in music, dance, or arts-related classes after school or during the summer. And it varied somewhat by age, where you had 61% of those under 6, 76% among those 6 to 11, and 57% 12 to 17. So the sweet spot is 6 to 11. And then we said, regarding potentially enrolling children in out-of-school arts programs at New Jersey City University, 39 said they would be interested, 14% said they were not, and 47%, not unusually, said needed more information. But at least the yes is about 3 times the no's. Next. If there is a next, yes. In this sample, only 11% of the population had a Latinx or Hispanic background, which is considered an ethnicity, not a race. Over on the right, you can see the 68% self-designated as white. only 10% is Black or African American, only 5% is Asian or Pacific Islander. Beyond race and ethnicity, we asked about ancestry. And a lot of people did not, you see at the bottom there, 44% said none apply. But those who did, a lot of Irish, Italian, German, African, Russian, and so on, Polish. Those were the ones that came up. I know there are large Filipino and other communities there, but in the sample of people who are currently on lists, Filipino, for example, is only 2%. So that may be the last slide. No?
Yeah.
Am I right? Yeah.
Yes.
So if anyone wants me to go back to an earlier slide where we're missing some explanation, we can certainly do that.
George, can I just ask, this is Jeff, maybe just give a little bit of background of your firm, because it was based on a lot of the experiences you've done and having discussions with you.
Well, you're breaking up a little, but we formed ARA in 1996, and Aline joined about 5 years later. For many years, we worked in the theater industry, and at one time probably did on-site surveys for more museums than we didn't do. You know, I could probably name the ones we didn't do, like the Frick and the Morgan, as opposed to the ones we did do. We did visitor surveys. We did surveys of retail operations. We also did economic impact analyses. For example, at the Museum of Modern Art, for their expansion in 2005, we did an economic impact based on their potential increase in attendance from 1.5 to 2.5 million annually. And they received $65 million in seed money from the city toward their campaign of $650 million. And after they got that money, well, the other arts organizations asked the mayor if they'd do the same. He said, you give me 10-to-1 matching funds and I'll give you money. But it was a very successful study. In New Jersey, we worked for many years. Aline, I'm forgetting the name of the wonderful director of the Newark Museum.
Oh, Susan, Sweeney, yeah.
Anyhow, we worked for many years doing all kinds of surveys there, especially family surveys. We did some bilingual focus groups where we worked with the Board of Education, where the groups were conducted in Spanish, where we had a great deal of learning about the parents themselves who did not go to the museums, but they wanted this for their children. And that was very popular. Currently, we do a lot of civic-related projects. We just completed a study of the residential survey in Lower Manhattan, trying to learn more about, since the central occupancy of the commercial tenant space, the offices, how the habits of the residents there could help the retail. Also, there's a new performing arts center that's opening there.
Yeah.
I'm probably skipping a million things, Aline, but essentially we do qualitative and quantitative research and economic analysis, and have worked in, I think, all the genre of the arts, of both visual
as well as cultural attractions, or
popular attractions,
popular
like
and tourist cultural attractions here in New York and elsewhere. Just many of the major iconic places in New York, we covered their studies. So
also a couple of years ago, we did do some surveys of the Montclair Art Museum, and I think you did a seminar in Central Jersey years ago, didn't you, Aline? Something?
Yes, with the arts organizations.
Yeah. So I hope that helps, Jeff.
So I wonder, George, if you could talk a little bit about the people that were not, so 60% were from Jersey City. Some of the people that were from outside the area, were they clumped in locations or just across the board?
Well, there weren't that many. I mean, we had 4% in Hoboken, and we had 22% who lived elsewhere in northern New Jersey. I didn't do a specific geographic breakdown, but I imagine it's probably geographical proximity. Only 5% lived in New York City, which had included 3% from Manhattan. And then you had a couple of visitors from other states, Philadelphia, for example, and some from the other suburbs other than what New York would consider northern New Jersey as suburbs.
Got it. I mean, the Hoboken part surprised me. I would have thought that there would be a lot more patrons coming to.
Well, I think there's two issues here. One, we're working from the lists of organizations of the people who are already participating. So if a lot of people aren't coming from Hoboken now, that represents an opportunity, apparently. And also, we probably will be doing another phase of this on social media. I alluded before to a residential study we did in Lower Manhattan, where we used postal mail, QR codes, and a variety of things, but we supplemented that with ads on social media, and that brought in the younger audience, so that when we did an analysis of the demographic profile of the sample, it almost perfectly matched the census data from 2020. So I think we do have to do something on social media to try to capture other people who have, outgoing lifestyles, but aren't necessarily on one of the 7 or 8 lists that we have.
Makes sense. Does anyone else have any questions?
I see the questions about visiting galleries. No, we didn't break that down. That wasn't. I guess that wasn't something originally that the PAC was looking at. That I added it because of the fact that we did do the surveys there. And I think Robinson may have sent you some data specific from that art fair survey.
You didn't, and I would actually like it. So I was going to talk to you after that.
No, we
It
did.
was.
Then
It was, yeah.
We will resend it.
We can resend it.
yeah, resend it, because maybe you sent it to my art house email, which no longer works.
Oh.
That's why she didn't say thank you. There we go. Okay.
I actually had a question, because it's interesting, because your demographics, I mean, I know it's also the mail survey as well as 14C, but we ask everybody who gets a ticket, like where they're from. And I was just sort of surprised, because we had like 15% from New York City and actually only 35% from Jersey City. So I just was interested that our group skewed differently than yours.
I suspect it is. I don't have the report in front of me, but I suspect it did. And also because we were in person at the art fair. And when we have the opportunity to do a survey in person, we get almost everybody we ask to comply. And so you reduce what's called non-response bias. When you're sending out an email invitation, you have a lot of people. We send out, tens of thousands of requests, and we didn't get back tens of thousands of responses. So it's a little more selective. So anytime you have that's why we've always championed doing on-site surveys when the possibility is there. But we will send you the data from. I think the data we sent you was just.
Oh, you know what?
Was just.
I have it. You sent it to me in November, and I don't know why I never opened it. So. Thank you.
Can you open it and see what your geography is like now since you brought it up?
Yeah, we've got our Manhattan was, it's looking like 8%. And then Brooklyn, 8%, Staten Island, 9%.
So even more than what you have usually, more than 15% that you mentioned. So probably it attracts
in the ballpark. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Okay.
Sam, you had a question?
Thank you. Yeah, just a question. I joined late, coming from rehearsal, so I may have missed this. What was the total sample size? And I'm asking that because, first of all, interested to know in your assessment, given that the sample is, as you said, kind of drawn from pre-existing audience members of arts groups in Jersey City. In your estimation, does this sample represent a kind of is there enough people in this sample for us to get good information out of it with regards to pre-existing arts audience members? But then second, given kind of the potential audience that may not be on these lists, does this sample size give us enough information to kind of begin to assess, where audiences beyond those that are on these
Right.
these
So you asked the two important questions, and people only usually ask the one about the statistical significance of the survey. We had 903 respondents, and that's a statistically sound sample. So in terms of representing the people who are on the list, what I would call the core audience in Jersey City, I think it's a good representative sample, but it does not represent everyone in Jersey City and environs who might be interested, who aren't on your list, or who didn't answer. And that's why, I don't know if you were on, I said we will probably have a phase 2 in which we will do a combination of social media, posting some QR codes in various
neighborhoods,
residences, and things like that. So it's a good measure of the piece that we already have.
Sam, it's Jeff. I agree with you. We have to look at who's not coming to our spaces and how do we get them to come, because there are a lot of people that aren't yet.
I'm not. I agree with you, but I think what we need to do is flesh out the people who do similar activities who may not be on these lists.
Yeah,
and that would be my first step. Before that would be the next step I think we'd have to take.
I think there should be some kind of predisposition of attending this kind of events and programs, so that even if they are not on any of the organizations list, they may be a very good candidate.
But the question also was what you would want to, and I'll have you come on, Sam, again, but the other question in the survey was what kinds of things would you like to see, right? So if there's people that are not on any of our lists from other ethnic communities or other communities that we haven't reached yet, and we find out that they want to see a particular style, then we would start programming that, right? Or we would address that because we want to reach everyone in the community. So that's an important thing to learn too. So, Sam.
Oh, just a follow-up question. It is interesting that for the respondents, it sounded like the way that they find out about arts events in Jersey City is almost entirely through social media and emails, or those were the two largest categories. And I'm wondering if, in your experience, how does that compare to other arts groups that you worked with? It occurs to me that those are kind of more low budget ways of getting advertising out. It's inexpensive to send emails and do posts, and so it may be that's how people find out about arts events in Jersey City, because that's the most that's in general the easiest way for the arts organizations to get the message out. But how does that compare to other
obviously social media has been growing by leaps and bounds, but when we do surveys at various institutions, especially in Manhattan, I don't believe there's been one where social media was number one yet. But that's because a lot of people, especially who live here, are still, if not getting a physical paper, which is probably only older people like me, but are subscribing to nytimes.com and all the publications sites to get information. So that's a separate category from social media. These lists, the survey was sent to people who had opted in to get emails from you. So it's not a surprise that the second most popular category for how they hear about things were the email lists. And some people go to your website as well. Those are the people who are following you already. But there's been a real transition. I mean, as a consumer, I'm late to social media. And yet I find myself more and more seeing things. Oh, I didn't know that was going on until it's on a Twitter feed or something. So it's here.
Well, I mean, if you look at slide 13, the top 5 most mentioned channels of information, while it's social media and email from the venue comes the top 2. 50% still rely on personal recommendation, and 4 out of 10, they go to the organization's website, and almost another 4 out of 10 go to cultural sites or in-uses that they receive online. So yeah, I mean, personal recommendation is still playing a large role in here.
To answer your question, if I was doing this survey at the shed, then newspapers and magazines, online or print, would be a higher number.
Yep, because
Okay,
of the
okay,
nature of the audience.
Yeah.
I think there's also something too in that word of mouth piece where, social media doesn't just mean an ad. I mean, social media,
no.
in fact, it's actually usually not an ad. It's not my post saying, come to my event. It's my friend posting or sharing or someone retweeting something. So that social category sometimes isn't about your paid media so much as it's an extension of word of mouth and net promoter score and all that kind of thing.
We don't think most of this is paid. Yes.
Yeah, no, but I think that's something to, like, you're easily seduced by, like, oh, social, let's spend some money on Facebook, but that's the conversions there aren't nearly as high as when it's shared by someone you trust.
Right. Yeah. Which is, in a sense, a personal recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's word of mouth, but it's someone may check the social box because they got it on Facebook, but it really was their friend telling them about it.
Right.
Absolutely.
But it takes a mix.
Yep.
Have you all done kind of like, do you have a response to this, like, overall? Does this look promising for the new Art Center at NJCU, or does this make you question whether there's an audience, or what's your analysis of this information?
Well, I think, and Stephanie probably could respond to this better than me, but having the information is a step toward what you're going to be doing in programming. And I think it's highly useful. And we have more research we have to do. And we also, ask more specific questions about awareness of the PAC and the school and other things that in the overall study that was given to NJPAC.
Well, it was also interesting to me of the ethnicity of the respondents, because I started thinking, well, are most of the organizations that participated, where's everyone located? Is that mostly downtown? Is that why most of the participants were white? And what are we missing in our neighborhood? Because we're in Greenville. So what are we missing in respondents, and how do we reach people on this side of Jersey City? So that was my first initial question. And then also, in programming, how are we going to, I don't want to be missing people. So that's a big concern for me. Yeah. Olga, do you want to speak to, is any of this surprising to you? You've done a lot of research before.
No, the only thing that I was a little surprised at was the predominance of the social media, in this case, an audience of this age.
Thank you, Stephanie. No, I totally understand that it's relevant because of the organizations that participated. Geographically, downtown, we do have only one music, right? One music, or how many? Because the surveys that we had in 2012, I believe 75% of Jersey City, but it was a different kind of survey. It was based on different organizations, not necessarily art organizations, and 75% wanted music. So 35 came with theater. So for me, I was surprised, but I was happy that we came with the numbers. We came out with theater. It means work is there, because it is work. It's just very clear to me from this that what we have done together worked. We have to continue working together because it's not something that you can just post and people gonna come. just like with money, right? We fought for it, we work on it, for the funding, we're continuously working on it. All the organizations, including NJCU and the center. And I looked at the numbers as like, okay, I see the progress and I see that work is showing. That's that because we hardly had any New York audience when we did survey in 2012.
Yeah, but that's 10 years, and also the demographics in Jersey City started to shift, and you're getting different mix of races and ethnicities and things like that. So
I saw the progress. I was very, very happy that theater and dance was only at 4%, and dance was only. So when I looked at the numbers at that time, it was very clear that we wouldn't be able to sustain White Eagle Hall with theater at 35, and but it was different animal. We had to make sure that we can sustain the building. So I think everybody can come up with their strategy accordingly to what's going on today, and I saw it as work in progress.
Fantastic.
The progress.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Martin, any thoughts from what you see from Bergen Square?
Well, the problems are the ones that have been identified. For example, in the Hudson County Cultural Plan, 43% of the people who live in the county are foreign born, 59% speak another language at home. Overall, 41.6% are Latinx. And so disparateness, we around here, our religion is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And those are great ideals, and I'm all for them. When we met, but it's very hard to work sometimes with populations that are already very stressed and are now doubly, triply, quadruply, quintuply stressed as a result of COVID. So you talk about the Afro-American community and the Latinx community. Someone said, what's missing? What's missing is trust and real communication. We're a very segregated city. Stephanie, you met with the Pompidou Dice people, right? And so did we at the Museum of Jersey City History. And it's interesting that the people they sent to us, and I think the whole team, absolutely everyone was white in a country like France, which is full of people of color. But they don't get it either entirely. By the way, I'm in favor of the Pompidou Dice, and I think it would be a great thing. So this is not to knock in any way the idea of Pompidou Dice, so it's coming here, but they don't entirely get what they're getting into either. I tried to explain to them they're coming to an NYC banlieue. That's what this is. And they're going to have all the, call them problems, call them challenges, call them opportunities. They're going to have all of that to contend with here if they're going to make a success of this locally. I don't doubt that there'll be a success drawing people from the New York City metropolitan area, Connecticut, New Jersey, New York. But are they going to be, how successful they'll be locally? Well, that remains to be seen. This is a tough nut to crack here. We have populations here that are distrustful and or preoccupied with survival. It may not be distrust, they're preoccupied with survival issues.
Yeah.
So yes, we're all making progress. I'm the chairman of the board of the Museum of Jersey City History, and I'm optimistic about the future of the museum, as I am optimistic about the Jersey City Theater Center and Nimbus and Arts House and NJCU PAC. But this is hard work ahead.
As Olga said, hard work, continuous hard work.
Agreed. Dan, did you want to add something?
I just wanted to, Martin, when you talked about, gaining trust among certain communities. I mean, and it kind of goes back to Sam's question about, these are our lists, right? So these are people that have already voted with their feet and their wallet to participate in the kinds of programs that we're offering. So in some ways, if you're approaching this from a business development standpoint, the easiest people to sell to are the people that are already buying from you, right? So, you've got a product that they want, just keep giving it to them. When you start talking about sort of community engagement and wanting to broaden audience, it's not just as simple as like putting up an ad or, here's a Spanish singer and we're done. There is this other level where you do talk about building trust, understanding cultural, being culturally competent in how you engage. And as I said, I spent many years working at the New York Hall of Science, which was right in the middle of Queens. So every language, every culture within a walking distance of the museum. And we dedicated, an entire department over the course of time to community engagement and working with schools and parents groups and the local, community groups. And a lot of it was stage one was gaining that trust. It's not just about, oh, well, we've got this program for you, what you're doing with this survey is sort of like finding out about the people that are already voting with their wallet and to the degree that they're interested in you. And I think there are definitely some actionable things in here about the types of shows they want to see or what they're willing to pay or how far they're willing to travel that is very informative for a core audience that we're already working with. And then where you've got a mission-driven priority to broaden engagement, have more inclusive, programming and communities that may not be typical arts patrons, that's square one. I think it's an interesting thing, and it really does highlight different approaches to audience development. When you're talking about a traditional audience versus an audience that may not be traditionally culturally inclined, but that it's a mission-driven priority to make that happen.
Yeah, George, this reminds me the study that we did for the Queens Botanical Garden. Where they also had a special department where it was outreach to the community in various languages, in various programming, because each culture has different interest in type of event or even a plant or flower or, whatever it is, so they were trying to basically understand that and bring them in.
Those surveys were done in English, Spanish, Korean, and Chinese.
I know this is Jeff speaking too, having worked in Queens for many years, to bring in the now called the Latinx audience was an investment. I had to really raise significant funds to hire the appropriate curators and to bring in talent that people were willing to pay to see, not just saying, we're going to do a Hispanic Heritage Month and let's get some, local groups and their children, to come perform. It was really bringing artists from abroad, from their countries where people were willing to pay $25, $50, $75, but it was also very risky. Like, would those audiences come? But I think it was really a sense of investment, in addressing the challenges that Martin said, and also continuity. That, we said to them, this is not a pilot project, this first festival. It will be here the following year and the year after and the year after, and building that trust and faith.
Awesome.
Well, I hope if there's a phase 2 to the research, that we'll be able to mine additional audiences and with potential and identify their interests to complement this. You don't want to have one at the expense of the other, but you really have to have both.
Yeah, and I think also to expand the radius of the area.
Yeah,
that would be more inclusive of other counties that is contiguous to Jersey City.
Yeah, Hudson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also find new audiences within the university. Those who go to school there or their alumni and things like that. I think that would be very interesting to dig in.
And I think everybody already has been in this process, by just sharing your databases for this, survey. But as Olga said, just to reemphasize that collaborative effort, of just letting people know that in Jersey City, there's a lot going on. We're working together. We want to enrich the lives of everybody. And it could be a dance performance at Nimbus or a concert, at White Eagle, but that collectively we are really providing a really broad, robust schedule of activity, so you can stay here or bring guests from outside too. But that needs to be done collectively. There has to be like those cultural districts in Brooklyn, that BAM has created in Long Island City right now, where everybody works together to bring more people in.
Is there any kind of film festival?
But there was at Thomas Edison, there was a film festival at NJCU. It's now moved south, but we're open to partnering on that. So
yeah, maybe because George, I don't think that we had any question about a film festival. I'm not sure if the venue, lends itself for something like that, or any of the venues that are in Jersey City.
I think we all do. I think we all could.
Yeah.
Present. Yeah. Molly, do you have anything?
I was just starting to write, Molly. On slide 9, because I saw your question in the chat. Museums are broken out separately from art galleries or fairs. You asked if there any question regarding visiting galleries. So the answer is yes. But of course, that number is slightly inflated because we did surveys at the art fair.
You're muted, Molly. So if you want to unmute.
You're unmute. Unmute.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, ProArts is mainly gallery-based. We are a gallery-based group, so that's why I was interested in that, because it seemed like the study was more focused on the performing arts.
We had hoped to get this project off earlier when you had those tours of all your galleries, and to do on-site as we did on a Bergen Fair, but it didn't happen that quickly.
Yeah.
Red tape, so we missed that. Yeah. Stephanie, you're muted.
Somehow I was unmuting, but it wasn't working. Sam put in the chat that the Golden Door Film Festival was a film festival that was hosted here. So yeah.
Was it?
That's great. I mean, because
it
for different
or in a particular ethnicity, or
it was general.
Okay.
But also, I mean, for instance, in New York, you have different ethnicity, or cultural background film festivals that
Specific film festivals at which you could
attract a lot of people or have interest in.
We've done, on the one hand, the Tribeca Film Festival, which is broad. On the other hand,
we did the Tribeca Film Festival.
We do a series every year at the Japan Society. And it was interesting, in the pandemic, they switched from the live to online, which they had never done before, and wound up with a much bigger audience.
Incredible.
Yeah. I mean, now they are going to do hybrid, basically. Yeah. They are going to continue doing the online, the online thing, and then also do in person, because a lot of people will be interested in coming in person if and ever this COVID goes away.
All right. Well, if anyone has a follow-up question.
I think McAdam wanted to speak.
Oh.
Have any comments or impressions?
No, I was going to mention Golden Door.
Great.
I had just a couple little questions, honestly. Did the travel slide, it lists the PATH train. Is that just the PATH train, or is that all public transportation or other means of local public transportation?
I'm trying to remember.
But George, isn't the PATH train also arrives? There are two locations that.
There are 2 stations.
2 stations. I think that's
in Jersey City. Right.
There's one on Journal Square, and there's another one.
Strange Place and Newport.
Yeah.
So I was just curious because locally I could see that would be, if we're talking about residents traveling to things, the PATH might not be as used as much as other elements of public transportation.
George, we can maybe analyze the data by selecting those
paths
where they are coming from.
I just wanted to look down and see what the question, how we asked the question. Just give me 1 minute.
Okay, what is your primary daily means of transportation to work or just getting around where you live?
Right, and what was
Car.
the choice, the written on the survey was public transit, in parentheses, PATH, NJ Transit, MTA, etc. So while the graph says PATH, it was public transit as the category.
George, that is one question about, how they usually go about their,
And that's the question that we reported on here.
No, but there is also, do you travel how do you typically travel to performances in Jersey City? And that is
yes.
Car, PATH, on-demand car, walk, bicycle, and other. So this slide, I believe, is the second question.
I think you're right, but that also is listed as public transit. No, it's not.
No, it's car, PATH, on-demand car service, in parentheses, taxi, Uber, Lyft, walk, bicycle, other, ride-in.
Okay.
So maybe we can choose the PATH and analyze what geographic distribution it has. And
you'll just get zip codes, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that will answer your question probably.
Good catch, okay.
Adam. Good question, though.
Oh, thanks. Can I just ask too, honestly, just curiosity, scrolling back up, slide 7, places where generally see live performances. I was just curious, I thought it feels like 55% seeing performances in Jersey City feels a little low, especially because of the list that we're reaching out to. Is that typical? Is that standard? Does that feel low to you guys, working with numbers?
I don't have a benchmark for Jersey City.
But Olga maybe has it.
On benchmark on what?
Well, McAdam was asking if 55% seeing live performances in Jersey City as opposed to 84% in Manhattan is low. I mean, logic would tell me there's so much more offered in Manhattan, and so close that it didn't surprise me.
Yeah, that difference doesn't surprise me. I was surprised. 55% feels a little low since you're reaching out to so many audiences of Jersey City arts organizations. So that's why it felt a little low.
And I don't know if you're online when I said it did break out differently by age. The younger age groups under 35, even to 54, it was higher, 60% or more. The 45% were for people 55 and over. So the older audience was less likely to attend things in Jersey City.
Is less.
But McAdam, if you go to slide 4, and you see the geographic distribution of this sample.
Right.
You see that, just go there, slide 4. You see that 60% of the respondents who are part of this, they are from Jersey City.
That's a good perspective, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that puts it in better perspective.
That makes more sense, right?
Yeah, and also I would add, McAdam, just because don't forget, it's only our organizations that mostly in downtown, right? Downtown, some people just moved maybe 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. Of course, New York is where they're still attending. Everybody use Jersey City as a bedroom community. But I have a question about, do you see any specifics that kind of stood out about analytics about Jersey City? And I know, again, it cannot be accurate because it's mostly downtown, because we're all located geographically.
Well, obviously the thing that struck me and made me realize this was a special audience that we had here was the mean household income of $160,000, the average age of 52, and 89% with a college degree. Clearly, this does not reflect all of Jersey City.
Jersey City, yeah.
All the market there, yeah.
Actually,
that's why I say we have to do more work.
Yeah.
Let me see. I think I have. Okay, Jersey City population. I'm just going to look at that quickly.
Something like 250,000, or I forget exactly.
It's 258,000 people as of the 2020. It's the second largest city in New Jersey after Newark. Jersey City population growth. It went up. White is the largest, Asian, Black or African American, like in order. I'm giving you in order. Some
Asian is
other,
second.
yeah. And then I'm just going to look household type, no. Household type, no. Education, no. Name, Jersey. I'm looking at income. Yeah. No, I don't have.
They don't calculate a mean income or median income. I don't.
No, they don't.
You have to do.
They don't.
Yeah. Well, according to that, the Asian audience would be underrepresented in your list. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely is underrepresented on any of your lists.
They're well represented, you know, on more established organizations in Manhattan.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Anything else, Stephanie?
Everyone, it's so good to see you. It's been a really long time since we've connected, I guess, since the last time we did this presentation. So if I go down across my screen and I just call on you, can everyone just do a 1-minute pitch of what's happening with you or upcoming things or anything like that? So Sam and Hannah, you're on.
Oh. Let's see. We're wrapping up our company's season at Nimbus. We just actually were at NJPAC working with the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra, which was a very exciting experience. Following up, we're going to be. This was kind of a initial project with a bigger project in the fall that we're really excited about. They've commissioned us to create a new choreography for Aaron Copland's Appalachian Spring.
Ooh,
that will be performed.
I love that.
Yeah, it's just wonderful music. And that's going to be performed at NJPAC in October and at Morristown Performing Arts Center at Mayo Center in October. So we're in the rehearsal studio working away at that, which is really fun. That's a ton of kids programs always going on, and keeping busy.
Love it. Thank you. Who's next? Martin.
The Museum of Jersey City History. We will have signed our lease with the City of Jersey City. We'll be their lessee for the Apple Tree House. The inaugural exhibition will be Frank Hague's Jersey City Past and Present, and it will open the inaugural exhibition in the fall.
Wow, that's
awesome.
Great.
Very awesome. Olga.
We're finishing up our new play festival. We had over 160 submissions this year, so that's exciting. Starting this 26 years ago, from all over the country and all over the world. And tomorrow, actually, last play, we did last play, and then we're going into June with International Theater Festival. In Israel, Uzbekistan is going to open on 15 with Netanyahu. With Ida Netanyahu's play, and then we're going into Poland, USA, a second project on 19th of June, then Hungary and Slovakia. We only took 4 companies this year. But yes, talking about cultural exchange, and we're trying to understand in strategic planning with New Jersey Theater Alliances, and trying to understand the market and match our mission with what numbers are telling us, and just be creative about it, because we I believe live through very different times for the arts. So
yeah.
It's I don't know, scary, but it's exciting.
Lots of opportunities. It's awesome. All right, McAdam.
Hey everybody. The Arts Council, what are we doing? We're working on the admin of the Arts and Cultural Trust Fund grants. Those, I believe, are scheduled to be announced next month. They're coming down to the wire, so that's great. We're processing another grant program that we were running, the Arts Relief Fund. So I've been crunching a lot of data and looking at a lot of spreadsheets weeks. So we're doing that. We also were able to bring on a couple part-time, some temporary part-time staff, Yasmin Gaskins, local artist, and Brian Wiseman, a local musician, to help us as community outreach managers and help us with marketing a little bit. So that's really exciting to have some part-time help with there too.
That's great.
Much appreciated for everything you're doing.
Molly?
Molly.
Hey, everybody. So, yeah, ProArts is, we're kind of getting into the swing of having our own gallery. Finally, it's been like 3 years that we've been sort of moving into this new space, and then not because of COVID. And we did actually do a lot of online shows during the pandemic. And like you were talking about, we saw a bigger audience that way. So we've been sort of trying to do some hybrid stuff too. We've also taken on the space that we're in is we're involved. There's some GFP Real Estate has provided the space for us, and there's also artist studios there, and we've taken on all the studio artists under the ProArts umbrella to help them with their exhibitions as well in our space that we're sharing with them. So yeah, we've put together 3 shows this year. We're looking forward to there's one coming down. This is the last weekend for it. It's the Impact Show, and it is the studio artist. And then we're having a Resilient 2 show opening up on JC Fridays, which we always like to participate in that. And that's, I think that JC Fridays is such a great example of the community coming together and doing something and helping promote. We're actually going to be sharing that art gallery, which is quite huge. It's like 3,000 square feet, and we're sharing it with Art House because they're going to have their own show in there. We're going to have, we're going to do half and half of the gallery, but they don't have a gallery right now. Theirs is still being built out. So we offered it up to them. And so that's going to be fun. And then we have a baseball show coming in August, and that's going to be really fun. So this is all visual arts. Baseball, yeah, we have a couple of real fans, and they artist and baseball fans, and they approached us with this baseball idea. And so we'll see what happens. They're going to be putting out a call for art. It'll be going out to everyone all over New Jersey and New York, and anybody can apply. It'll be juried. So that's enough to say for now. But thanks.
That's awesome. I think we have on my team, we've got a lot of baseball fans in our NJCU team. So we'll be connecting.
Oh, cool. That's good. That's
awesome.
Good. We should put the call out and make sure that you get it.
Awesome. I think maybe Christine is here. Do you have anything?
I am. I'm running around like crazy, but I did just want to say that I listened to the presentation while I'm doing like 10 other things, but I thought that this was such a great basis for some really great conversation. And my hope is that, with this information, the organizations that participated will really be able to use the data to inform what comes next, and that you found it a useful process. And it sounds like you did. There was a lot of great conversation, and NJCU, thank you for funding this, because we all benefit from the information. And of course, you had your own goals in launching this, but with the great team with George and Eileen, putting so much time and effort into crafting a really, really great, useful study that we can all discuss and can inform all of our work going forward. It's a great thing. And I think it's a great example how we can all work together as an arts community.
Yeah.
A couple of things that I'll mention, which actually tie in to sort of the next chapter of data collection in the arts community. We are working with Americans for the Arts and Economic Prosperity 6 study. So Jersey City specifically will, over the next year, our arts community will be working together. I'll be talking to you individually about how we can start collecting some surveys specifically around the economic impact of the arts in Jersey City. And I think it'll be interesting too, sort of where we start over the next few weeks and the data that we collect over the next year as we get into more and more programming activity in the city. So that's really exciting. Art Pride, and Marie Miller and Art Pride said, hey, why don't we specifically bring Jersey City in to look at the economic impact here. So that's great. And then hopefully we'll be able to participate in the study the next cycle. They do it in a few years from now as well. So we can kind of see this growth over time and the change over time. So I think slowly but surely we're pulling in this really, really important information about how people engage with the arts here.
If we can be of any help, Christine, in terms of crafting economic related questions, we've done numerous economic impact studies, so happy to help.
Yeah, great, wonderful. And just to piggyback on what MacAdam had said as well, you know, Cultural Affairs is helping with the administration of the Arts and Culture Trust Fund. We'll be having a public meeting next Tuesday night for the committee to announce grant awards on that. So that information is going out. It's kind of the other things that I'm doing while I'm listening to this. So you should be getting announcements about that as well to tune in.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. Well, George and Aline and Dan and Jeff, thank you so much. I also want to thank Anna Carhart, our theater manager, Kate Holland, our assistant theater manager, John Osborne, audio technician, and Natalie Mendez, our amazing administrative assistant, for all of what you do and make this happen. And yeah, I'm excited with this data and to keep going forward and to the work ahead. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye.